Third, and most important, was the use of natural light, the sort of diffused natural light pouring in. Electrical light was in operation at the time, as these yards had to run around the clock, but during the day, the skylights at the top would let in diffuse natural light. Alonzo would become well known for applying these concepts to school construction in the decades to follow. Also at this time, this is 1941-42, two projects at Bath Iron Works also highlight the firm's work as well. They had an office in South Portland and an office in Bath. And the first of which, and the two are interesting because they really demonstrate where the profession of architecture or the theory of architecture is at the time. This is a very light frame and clad with a very thin metal panel. You can see that at the corner where the metal panel is going on. And so the skin of the building is divorced from the structure, allowing the windows to be as large as they wanted to be. This is still pretty new at this time, in the 1940s. The office building, there's the actual project when it's completed. Same vantage point. And here's the office building, office block, being constructed. And you can see the scaffolding, and you can even see the formwork in the masonry openings of the windows going up. And so this is truly a load-bearing building. So this, again, is the past. The other shed storage facility being the future of building technology. And there it's completed. Digging down through the archives, I also found in Alonzo's own hand a conceptual sketch and floor plan, and I'll pass that around right now. Actually, I don't mind if you look while I'm speaking here. So it's interesting to note also how the design was scaled down from that to what was actually built. This is much narrower. It lacks a cupola, and the entrance is slightly different. Instead of having a portico with columns, you actually have these applied piers to the front of the building. This is again going back a little bit to this. This technology that we see here again derives from the Industrial Revolution and was evident in the work that we saw in that shoe factory in Germany. With the war coming to an end, the Bath and South Portland offices were closed. In 1945, the firm was incorporated as Alonzo J. Harriman Incorporated, initially working temporarily out of Mr. Harriman's home at 88 Shepley Street in Auburn. Interesting to know that I delivered newspapers as a 9-year-old at 88 Shepley Street, so I was always fascinated by this particularly different building there as I was walking down the street. It was, at the time, it would have been his widow, Pearl. Alonzo brought with him some of the talented people he had developed in the shipyards, including Phil Gatz, who he selected as president. So Alonzo, I don't know that he was ever president. And again, Bob, you probably, I think Phil, he was treasurer, and Phil Gatz was the president.
That's what I remember.
Okay. And he also brought with him Eddie Doucette and Steve Drotter, all who later became associates in the firm. In August of that year, Harriman and Gatz would purchase a 2-story building at 292 Court Street, and that would remain home to the firm for the next 43 years. It was interesting in researching this. There was actually a note of the possibility of moving the firm to a parcel, a farm building out on Fairview Terrace or somewhere along in that area at one time. It turned out that that Alonzo's firm, there were two halves to the firm. There was a real estate part, and then there was the actual professional practice part. The real estate part had purchased this, and it made it into the newspaper. Digging further, it looks like what they did was actually built a subdivision on the property, and actually sold homes there. They never moved the office.
No, the office. The secretary bought a home.
Bought a home, correct.
Right.
Adria Smith bought a home on Fairview Terrace. And there was a particular term for the name of the houses. Gusman House? Or I can't remember what the name.
They were specialty. specially fabricated, I think.
Oh, they were interesting, and most of them, I mean, they're all there today. You can,
Oh, yes, yeah.
Noteworthy local projects of this period include the 1946 New England Telephone and Telegraph Dial Building on Ash Street in Lewiston. And so here, again, is most likely Alonzo's hand, and one of the early sketches of that facility. This was on the corner of Ash and what was then Middle Street. Middle Street running this way, Ash Street running this way. Middle Street no longer cuts through that area. It's now part of a larger parking lot across from the post office. The looser sketch, this one, probably a precursor to the more refined sketch. This was another one done, but there's some transitions in the process here. They both reveal the facility with juxtaposing lots of different stylistic elements. You have the Palladian window. I don't know if you can see it up in the gable up there. And then you also have some of the brick pointing and the string courses. And so you have this neoclassical, but then you also have that mixed with some of the colonial, if you will, with the gambrel roof form. Not sure where that came from. Or where the sort of more Italianate scrolling came from on the gable end of this one, on the roof. But from this is largely the design that was executed. That was it back in 1946. Also on the corner, and largely remains intact today, although sadly the white trim now has been painted brown or bronze for some reason, I observed the other day. On the other side of the city, at the corner of Campus Avenue and Bardwell Streets, the firm was engaged in the construction of an expansion to the student common at Bates College. The school had witnessed a large post-war growth and was in need of expanding its dining facilities. In 1949, Harriman designed the Men's Memorial Common, dedicated to the Bates men that lost their lives during World War I and II. The addition, I don't know that Bates would build a memorial commemorating soldiers today. Let's see here. The addition holds fairly literal to its English Gothic predecessors, even reusing some elements such as large bay window and arched side entrance that were actually moved forward with the addition. Harriman would go on to design several more neoclassical buildings at the Bates campus. This is a sketch for, I don't know if you can read it at the bottom, it says Fine Arts and Music Building, Bates College, Maine. This is in 1952. Early sketch. This is what was actually constructed. This is Pettigrew Hall on the corner. This is College Street on this side, and I'm trying to think.
Andrews Road.
Andrews Road on the other side. Interesting to note that from the previous one, this is along College right here, and the principal entrance was along College Street in the earlier sketches, and it was then rotated and made much less prominent when they rotated to the side. And the interior of one of the music rooms, showing the faceted ceiling. And so at this time, one of the things that Harriman was touting is that they had the engineers to assess the acoustic responses to the space, as well as the architects to design the interiors. In this one right here, Lane Hall. This is in 1956. Actually 64. I'm sorry. Lane Hall, the administrative building in 1964, just further down Andrews from where Pettigrew was. An early sketch, what was actually constructed, and then as that looks today. Also in the era, and this is now 1956, we skip back a little bit, the Page Hall, which was then a women's dormitory. There it is today. There's one of the interior shots at the time. And so it's not surprising to learn that in 1961, Charles Phillips, the president of Bates College at the time, bestowed on Alonzo Harriman an honorary doctorate of fine arts. The same year, the company saw a major shift in its ownership, as Alonzo was now 63, and while the practice of architecture is an old man's profession, it was no doubt he was eyeing retirement. Up to that point, the firm had mostly been formed through partnerships, the first being, as we talked about, Coombs and Stevens, and then Coombs Brothers, and Coombs and Harriman. The ownership was held mostly to one or two proprietors. But in 1961, the firm would change its bylaws and invite 5 individuals to purchase shares, and the name would change to Alonzo J. Harriman Associates Incorporated. And so Ed and Bob, do you recognize most of these folks up there? Yes, he is. Yes. So this is Alonzo in the corner here. This is Adria Smith. That shining young man right there is Bob Thorpe in the front row tonight. Elliot Bates, Phil Gatz, Ed Doucette, and Steve Drotter. Great. Harriman would achieve another important milestone this same storied year. Alonzo was elected into the Fellowship of the American Institute of Architects and was named one of the top 100 architects in the country. 5 years later, Alonzo Harriman passed away in a Lewiston hospital after what was termed in his obituary as a period of declining health. And I don't know the sort of history behind that. During the course of the last 70 years, Harriman would perhaps best be known for a multitude of K-12 school designs and designed and constructed throughout Maine. It's unusual to go through a community in Maine that doesn't have a school that was designed by Harriman. I know because now, 40 and 50 years later, they all need upkeep, and so that's where we come back and try to renovate them. Alonzo would be recognized as a national leader on the subject. He published several articles, including many in Architectural Record, the publication that still survives today. Locally, this heritage survives in several schools, including the old St. Joseph's School on Main Street in 1956, and the Lewiston Junior High School, which is now the Montello School. There's Montello right there. Typical for its time, the architecture is comprised primarily of planar elements rather than of masonry volumes. You can see there are planes of brick. This one doesn't necessarily show, it looks like a lot of brick, but there is sort of bookends of brick and a lot of curtain wall in between. The 2 classroom wings to the left of the photo can be seen as these solid bookends, between which a fenestrated curtain wall exterior is to allow lots of natural light to come into the classroom. And then you can see the same treatment is rotated 90 degrees with the lower single-story element to the left of the screen in the library volume. The complex is a careful composition of vertical and horizontal planes, platonic volumes, and solid void relationships. Apart from the formal architectural language, the building was designed to provide abundant natural light, views to the exterior, and a stimulating social environment for learning. Harriman was quoted on the subject of school construction in 1953 as stating, this was a good quote, "One of the chief causes of wasteful school building occurs when a committee seeks a monument replete with costly ornaments rather than a truly modern building giving the children a better school to learn in." And so here is a man who's very much of the modern age. And so the school buildings certainly do reflect that. And this is, again, if we were to go back and look at that school in Dessau, Germany, we would see many of these same elements that are manifest in these schools. There's another shot of the Montello School when it was first constructed. That since has been closed in. The security wasn't a problem back then as it is now. So. This also is another landmark from that period, being I call it now the old St. Joseph's School on Main Street in Lewiston. Actually, I had a daughter go there, so I feel a little bit part of history because now the building will probably never function as a school again, or it may, or may get gobbled up by Rite Aid or a hospital. That's the back side of the building. And this is sort of the precedent. This is the Crow Island School in Winnetka, Illinois. This was designed by a